Welcome back to the Ancestral Findings podcast. Let's set the scene. It's 1774, and the colonies are in turmoil. Britain's taxes and punishments have pushed things to the edge. The Coercive Acts, those harsh measures slapped on Massachusetts after the Boston Tea Party, were the last straw. But here's the thing. No one was quite ready to shout independence just yet. Instead, the colonies decided to send delegates to Philadelphia to hash things out together. This meeting, the First Continental Congress, became the starting point for something much bigger. I like to think of it like a well, quiet on the surface, but when you start drawing water, you find the depth and nourishment that's been there all along. The First Continental Congress was where the colonies began to draw from the well of unity and freedom. The delegates weren't out to break away from Britain, not officially anyway. Instead, their goal was to address their grievances and try to find some middle ground. Spoiler alert, they didn't succeed in reconciling with the Crown, but they did create something far more powerful, solidarity and the foundation for independence. The meeting wasn't flashy, no grand declarations, no fireworks, but beneath the surface, the groundwork for revolution was being laid. When the delegates got together, they didn't waste any time. They produced a few key documents that would become stepping stones toward independence. These weren't just words on paper. They were bold steps, considering the colonies were still technically loyal to Britain. First, there was the Declaration and Resolves. This document was their way of saying, we're not being treated fairly, and here's why. It laid out their rights, life, liberty, property, and made it clear they wouldn't tolerate British overreach anymore. Then there was the Continental Association. This was more than just talk. It was a plan of action. They agreed to stop buying British goods and to stop exporting to Britain. This wasn't just about pinching pennies. It was about hitting Britain where it hurt economically. Committees sprang up in towns across the colonies to enforce the boycott. These committees, by the way, were a sneaky little taste of self-government. And finally, they sent a petition to King George III. Imagine this as the last olive branch. They were saying, look, we're still loyal, but you've got to back off a bit. The king ignored it, but the effort showed they were willing to try every option before turning to rebellion. The First Continental Congress wasn't just about the documents. They had some incredible people in that room. You had moderates like John Dickinson, who thought there was still a chance to make peace with Britain. On the other side, you had firebrands like John Adams and Patrick Henry, who were ready to start a revolution yesterday. It was a mix of personalities, and not everyone agreed on what to do next. But despite their differences, they worked together, planting the seeds of unity that would grow into a full-blown independence movement. That's one of the most amazing things about the First Continental Congress. It showed that people from vastly different backgrounds could come together for a shared cause. It wasn't easy, but they made it happen. Here's the thing. The First Continental Congress wasn't the revolution itself. It was the foundation, the first step in a long journey. But without that step, there wouldn't have been a Declaration of Independence, a Continental Army, or a United States. The delegates started small by agreeing to boycott British goods and drafting a petition, but those small steps added up to something monumental. It's also a great reminder that unity doesn't mean agreeing on everything. It means finding common ground and working toward a shared goal. That's what those 56 delegates did in Philadelphia, and it changed the course of history. When I think about the First Continental Congress, I keep coming back to that image of a well. At first it looks quiet and unassuming, but when you draw from it, you realize there's a deep reservoir of strength and potential. That's exactly what happened in Philadelphia in 1774. The delegates dug deep, found their shared purpose, and began the journey toward independence. So next time you're facing a big challenge, think about the First Continental Congress. You don't have to have all the answers right away. Start small, dig deep, and trust that with persistence and unity, big things can happen. just like they did for those 56 determined colonists all those years ago. Here are some excellent book recommendations that dive deeper into the First Continental Congress and the road to American independence. The First Congress: How James Madison, George Washington, and a Group of Extraordinary Men Invented the Government by Fergus M. Bordewich. While this book focuses on the First Federal Congress post-Revolution, it provides insight into the foundations laid by earlier Congresses like the First Continental Congress, a fascinating read about the early workings of American governance. American Revolutions: A Continental History, 1750 to 1804, by Alan Taylor. This book offers a broad look at the American Revolution's origins and the colonial tensions that led to the First Continental Congress. It's great for understanding the larger context. Revolutionary Summer: The Birth of American Independence, by Joseph J. Ellis. While focused on 1776, Ellis's narrative traces the lead-up to independence, including the pivotal role the Continental Congress played. Founding Brothers: The Revolutionary Generation, by Joseph J. Ellis. This Pulitzer Prize-winning book highlights key figures and their relationships, offering insight into the personalities and decisions during the Revolutionary era. 1774, The Long Year of Revolution, by Mary Beth Norton. A recent and detailed account of the year leading up to the Revolutionary War, with specific attention to the First Continental Congress and its role in shaping the colonies' response to Britain. The Declaration of Independence: A Global History, by David Armitage. This book explores the global context of the Declaration, starting with the earlier work done by the Continental Congress. The Ideological Origins of the American Revolution, by Bernard Bailyn. A classic text that provides insight into the philosophical underpinnings of the Revolution, much of which was first debated during the First Continental Congress. Thanks for spending time with me on the Ancestral Findings podcast. I always enjoy sharing these stories, tips, and discoveries with you. If you haven't already, head over to ancestralfindings.com, where you can download a free genealogy ebook, request a free lookup, and of course enter to win the next book giveaway. It's been an incredible journey together since 1995, and your support through these past 29 years means more to me than words can express. I'm so grateful for this wonderful community of genealogy enthusiasts who continue to inspire me every day. Keep up the great work on your family history research, and may your next find be as exciting as your first. Thank you again for being part of this journey, and as always, happy searching.